Hi, comic book fans, and welcome to another suddenlycomics.com. It's a Monday evening, and it's a price variant show, but we've got a special one for you this evening. So we're coming towards the end of the year. We have decided to do a spec show. So this is our first show devoted entirely to spec. So we have picked, each of us have picked 6 comics, a spec comics for 2022. And when we get to December next year, we'll review how we've done, and we'll check to see whether my 6 spec comics have performed better or worse than Alan's spec comics. So we've done 3 each on Alan's channel. They're really great specs, and they're not expensive to pick up either. There's one in particular that Alan's come up with, which I think is a real killer spec. So again, on my show, we're both going to do 3 each. And Alan, would you like to kick off with your first spec comic?
Okay, so I on my channel, I mentioned sort of my intro into comic collecting altogether. And it was going, like, I collected coins as a kid. I loved coins. I would always go collect coins. But one day I went into the coin shop, and I don't know why, but on his shelf, like on the, like sort of like on the back wall of this coin shop, there was this one comic, and it's just like, oh wow, that's so cool. It's like, because I grew up like reading like Dell and Gold Key and all these kind of comics. And, you know, my parents were always like, you know, oh, only like Disney related titles, like what happened was, I went to this comic shop. I looked on the wall. I saw this comic that had sort of the Disney look to it. You know, it kind of reminded me of, you know, the typical like Donald Duck thing. But it also had some of that non-PG look to it. I just thought it looked kind of cool. It was like, you know, it had sort of a Conan the Barbarian meets Donald Duck kind of level to it. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And so I was like, how much is that book on the wall? And the guy was like, $10. And like my little childlike mind, even though I collected coins, $10 for a comic book, that must be like a grail or something. It must be like this like X-Men #1 level or something. In my mind, it was like, wow, that's a lot. Like you know, because comics in my mind were 25 cents, you know, like they were like really, really cheap. So $10, wow, that's a mega book. So I actually saved up for like a month or 2 or, you know, 3, you know, it's like for a while just to get enough money, because my parents wouldn't pay for it. You know, they didn't mind buying coins and helping me with my coin collecting, but they would buying a comic, what a waste of money. So so I just, you know, I saved up the money, bought this comic, and here it is. This is the one that I actually bought. This was my first collected comic, okay? And it's Howard the Duck. And you can see it's got like almost like a Red Sonja look girl, yeah, and like Howard the Duck. And he's like wielding a sword. I love Dungeons and Dragons at that time. I just thought this was brilliant. And it also had Spider-Man. It just had so many of these cool things. And this is not my spec, but this is the very first comic, and it's related to my spec. So my spec is actually because of Howard the Duck. So Howard the Duck is one of those characters that they love. Like the writers and the creators of Marvel love Howard the Duck. And they love sliding him in the weirdest places in all of the movies. He somehow weirdly appears, like just sort of like walks by or something like that. You know, there's always like something with Howard the Duck. And I think he's one of those characters that kind of like Throg, you know, this little frog. Like it's one of those characters that people love. And, you know, I think he's like kind of got that little bit of nostalgia element. So I think it's a character that has that position to go up in value. So my spec is actually his first appearance. And this is Adventure Interfere with Man-Thing number 19. And this is the first appearance of Howard the Duck in comics. Again, I'll take it out to show. And here's Howard.
Yeah, there he is. Yeah.
Okay, So this is his first appearance. I'm not sure if this is considered a cameo or, because he's in a few panels and he does kind of talk.
I think it does count as his first appearance.
Yeah. So just a really kind of cool comic. It's actually fairly pricey. It's not like the cheapest of comics. I think it's around I would say the $50-$60 mark.
It's more than that,
I guess. And,
more.
Oh, really? I paid $30 for mine.
It's on my list of. It's on my list of comics for 2022 that I want to get.
Oh, okay. And
so it's more than $50.
How much does it go for?
I think it's more like $200.
Okay. And mine's a high grade. Mine's probably a 9.2 or 9.4.
Yeah, definitely. So, in that case, yours is probably $300 or $400. That's quite a pricey book.
Yeah, but it was one that I always wanted to get. I always thought when I was a kid, I always thought this was his first appearance because it's number one. Everything, it has to be number one. That so. But it was only later where when I was a kid, you didn't really know where the first appearances were because there wasn't any guide that really told you that kind of thing. Now with the internet, we can find out where the true first appearances are. So once I found out, it's in Man Thing, I was like, I gotta get that book. So I said Adventure into Fear 19 is the name of the book actually. But yeah, so that's my Spec. I think it's a kind of one of those under the radar a little bit, I think. It's a book I liked.
Yeah, I mean, Howard the Duck is I collected him in the 80s. So I've got the full set of the Howard the Ducks and the magazine. There was a magazine, Howard the Duck, as well.
I don't have the magazine, but that would be a good one to pick up too.
But I haven't got that first appearance one because, as you say, back in the day, you didn't know when the first appearances were.
Yeah.
So that is on my list of comics I want to get during 2022.
That's funny.
And I think he keeps, as you say, he keeps making appearances in the MCU. I'd be surprised if he doesn't make an appearance in She-Hulk, the TV series, because he appears quite a lot with She-Hulk in the comics.
Yeah. I was thinking that too, actually. I think even in the What If, they brought in the What If series. And he actually had a pretty big role. It wasn't like a cameo like he normally is. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I think we may well see a Howard the Duck TV series in the next 5 years.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So my first pick, and this is a bit spooky because it's quite similar to one that Alan picked in his picks on his show, and he was talking about first cover appearances versus first appearances. So this is a character's second appearance, but in their first appearance, they didn't appear on the cover and they didn't use the name that they are known by. So this is the first time they appear on the cover, and it's also the first time they use the name that the character becomes known by. And this is Daredevil 105, and it's the first cover appearance of Moondragon, and also the first time she gets called Moondragon. So she does appear, I think, first in an Iron Man 54, I think it is, as Madam Evil.
That's right.
But this is her first cover appearance, and first time she gets called Moondragon. Now, the Iron Man one is quite pricey. It's sort of like about $100, $130 now. But this one is one's still affordable. You can still get this for about $20. So
that's in the mid grade.
That's in a mid
grade. Higher
grade.
grades are a bit more, I think. But
but yes, if you were to get it slabbed in a higher grade, yes, it would be more. But I'm talking about a sort of, a 7 or 8.
Yeah, 7.0.
Raw is going to cost you $20. So I think this is a bit under the radar, this one. And I think with the Guardians of the Galaxy coming up, I think Moondragon's going to play a bit of a role in the MCU going forward. So there we go. That's my first Spec.
I spec on Moondragon a lot too. I like the character. So I have that book. I have all the Moondragon related ones, like her first appearance and stuff. So I like Moondragon. So Definitely a
Did she
character.
appear in the? Did she appear in the list of 100 sexiest women?
I think so. I think so. Yeah. So that was another reason why I was like, who is Moondragon? I just like the name. And then I started reading her history. She's very connected to Thanos. She's like, she's connected to, she's actually a really good character for setting up situations where you can have your two main protagonists fight for no apparent reason, right?
Yeah.
So
well,
I
that's
think
what she
she's a
does
great character.
she's got telepathy, hasn't she? So that's what she does in the Iron Man one. She gets Iron Man and Iron Man and
is it Submariner?
Yeah, Iron Man and Submariner to fight. Yeah.
So that's like, I think she's a really good tool for the writer, and therefore I think is a good one to put into movies, because people love seeing their favorite superhero battle some other favorite superhero, right? So it's sort of like Batman versus Superman, or that kind of situation.
Yeah.
And if you can create a character that just forces that to happen, it's great. So yeah, I really like Moondragon. That's a very good spec. Okay. Actually, I have 3 more books that I brought, even though I'm only supposed to show 2 more. I think it's only appropriate. I always babble about the Golden Age, and I figure I should bring one Golden Age book.
Go ahead.
So I was debating about showing some more modern ones, but I'm going to show one Golden Age. And this is not a cheap book, but it's a book that is undervalued, if that makes sense. Okay?
Yeah, no, that's fine.
So right now we're in a phase, I really do see kind of a switching of the roles of where a lot of these movies are going, like a lot of the series are going for Marvel, where they're going more into the horror genre, and they're going to bring out more horror characters. And you got Blade coming up, you got Morbius, and you're going to get some other big characters like Werewolf by Night. Another really, really big character is Dracula.
Yeah.
And now, Tomb of Dracula #1 is the first Marvel Dracula. But this is a book under the radar, really under the radar, and a little bit undervalued. I really do see this as an undervalued book. This is Eerie #12.
Oh yeah.
From Avon series. Okay. And this to me is really underrated, like undervalued and stuff, because this is the first appearance of Dracula. He's on the cover. And this is his first appearance in comics of any, where it's named Dracula as a character. So this is kind of a cool comic, for that reason. And, if you know anything about the Eerie series from Avon, they're actually pretty pricey, except for this book. This book is one of the cheaper in the list of books, and it's maybe because a lot of the other Eerie books have like either some pretty girl on the cover, something like the more good girl art, or has like some famous artist like LB Cole, or I forgot. Or Matt Baker, I should say. So some big names, were in it, right? I don't think LB Cole, but I think Matt Baker. But this one is one of the ones that's under the radar. I paid about $200 to $300 for this.
Okay.
So it sounds like a lot, maybe, compared to all the other ones that we were talking about that are like $10 and stuff. But this book, in my opinion, should be $1,000 book. It should be like a much more expensive book because it is such a major key. There's not many of these in existence. It's like a pretty rare book, and it's got a major key, a major first appearance. Dracula to me is a kind of a major character. And I think what's going to happen is, people are going to go to that Tomb of Dracula, and Tomb of Dracula is a $1,000 book.
It is,
in high grade. It's a pretty expensive book. Actually, I paid $2 for my copy, so I got laughing. But I think people will go and say, well, what was the true first appearance? It's sort of like Sandman. Like I picked up Sandman, the first appearance, right behind me. like I think people will go to that original first character appearance, and I think it's one of those things where, especially there was another channel like Automatic Comics, and they were looking at all of the generations of comics, and basically he was noticing that all of the, you know, March, April was sort of the peak, or April, May of this year was sort of the peak for all comics. Like they were all like, you know, going through the roof.
Yeah.
But then just as I predicted, if you watch my videos, I predicted that the market would kind of tumble a little bit. And I was right. You know, around July, it kind of tumbled. Yeah. And what happened was the only generation that didn't tumble and actually continued to go up was the Golden Age.
Yeah.
And it was because like all the modern stuff had gotten so pricey that all of a sudden these Golden Age books were kind of a little bit undervalued comparatively. And so what happened was people like started saying, well, why are we not picking up something where it's much scarcer? it's much more a grail in a lot of ways. And I think that's what this book is. I think that this is one of those books where people are going to be like, well, why don't I get his true first appearance? And that's this book. So
that's a great pick.
A little bit of an extra explanation needed, but I really do. I believe in this book. I think it's just such a cool
really good pick.
First appearance.
Really good pick. I like that.
So I'm not expecting that one to be like $1,000 book next year when we reevaluate this top 6 or each, you know. But you know, I think it's a good book. I think it's a good long-term spec, if that makes sense.
It is a good long-term spec. That's the okay. So right, my next one is partly because I really like the cover, and partly because I think it is good spec because of what's coming up in the MCU. And it's I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know, you may not even have seen this cover. It's a comic called Rise of the Black Panther issue 2. And it's got a beautiful cover on it of Namor, but with Black Panther sort of in his, you know, in the background, in the drawings behind. And it's this sort of beautiful green cover. So it's a fantastic cover, which I really like. But the reason why, so the cover in itself, I think, means this is good. This is a good spec, but it has also got the background of the Wakanda Atlantis war in it. Yeah. And the speculation is that the Wakanda Forever film is going to basically feature Wakanda versus Atlantis, and that we're potentially going to see Namor. So if that does happen, this comic, which is already a sort of $30-40 comic, I think potentially could go even higher, especially given the beautiful art on the cover of this. So that's my next spec pick for next year. Rise of the Black Panther issue 2. It's just a nice comic to have in your collection, even if it doesn't go up, to be honest, because the artwork is just stunning, sort of greens and blues. It's very unusual. So that's my second pick.
That's actually on my want list. That was a book that I was kind of waiting on. I think it has, personally, I think that's a great book, and I think that book will probably double or triple in price. But I think right now it's it's kind of a little bit on the radar, and people are kind of specking on it too. And I think that I think what'll happen is there's going to be a point where we'll move on to the next, this is the next hot book. And that book will kind of cool down a bit. So I'm thinking that book, January, February is the time to buy it.
You may well be right. You may well be right.
And then I think it's going to go up, like back up, but I think there will be sort of this weird little lull with that book, and I'm sort of waiting on that book to pick it up. So, but that's definitely one I've been looking for as well. So
yeah, it's a beautiful.
I'm looking for it in that $15 to $20 range, to tell you.
Yeah, and you may well be right. If you wait until February, I think it might dip down a bit, and then I think it'll come back as we get closer to the Black Panther film.
And I mean, there's a lot of justified reason for why that's such a great book. In the last was it Black Panther? One of the movies, I forgot which one. They had like an end credit scene where there's a disturbance
Yes,
off the
that's right.
coast. It's like, wonder what that could be. It's like very big setup for Namor in the whole series. So I think definitely that is something that will go up in value. So very good spec. I really like that one. Okay. I think I'll go with, I was trying to debate about which of the last two that I'll show. I think I'll show this book. This is Secret Wars number 3. And this is not really under the radar or anything special. A lot of people have been already talking about this book. But the reason, just like I mentioned with your book, the one that you said, I really think that's a great book. But I actually think that this is the time to buy this book. So this is like, just like that, you have to sort of pick your timing, in terms of when to buy. And I think this right now is strangely the time to buy this book. And the reason I say it's now is the time is we had the trailer drop for the new She-Hulk series. And there is there's some speculation around She-Hulk. But it's sort of now, it's been a little while since that trailer has dropped. Things are a little bit cooler in terms of the comic market and in terms of the She-Hulk series. And this book has really gone down in value. Okay. So it's kind of going down. And what's so special about this book? Well, it's got 2 first appearances of potential villains for She-Hulk. It's got Volcana and Titania. And it's Titania, the second version, actually. There's 2 versions of Titania. Actually, I had to pick up somebody when I mentioned this book on my channel before, somebody commented, "Oh, that's not the first appearance." And I'm like, "Oh, crap. Now I have to go find the first appearance of some other Titania." They always come up with some new version of the character, right? So you got to pick up every version of some silly character. But so this is, 2 major characters, potential villains for She-Hulk. I think it has a lot of potential. And there's actually another reason why I think this book has a lot of potential. There's the new Secret Wars series that might come out as well. So anything Secret Wars will have an extra. So I think it's got that double key, triple key, quadruple key kind of element to it. I think it's just got so much potential. And right now this book is cool. So I think it's a good time to buy. So that's a lot of the time with Spec, you have to pick your battles. When is the right time to buy that book? And I think right now is the time to buy this. So I picked it up when it was like low. It was like, I got it like 20 or 30% lower than what it was maybe a few weeks earlier when I picked it up. I was like, oh, I'll pick it up now. It's a good time. So
yeah, you're right. Timing is important. And my last one, timing might not be perfect, but so my last one, do you know whose first appearance this is?
Oh, yes. Is it the Spot or something like that? Or?
Yes, correct. So this is the first appearance of Spot, and he is rumored to be going to be the main protagonist in the Into the Multiverse, which Sony have now announced they're going to do 2 new Into the Multiverse movies. Oh, wow. They're going to split it into 2. And the rumors are that Spot, who is a sort of multi-dimensional character, is going to be the main protagonist. So this is he doesn't appear on the cover. He appears on the cover of the one after this, which is Spectacular Spider-Man 99. But he appears in the body of this, and this is the first appearance of Spot. Now this has just started to take off. So now the movie does come out next year, so it might be another one where you might want to wait until March, April, because it has gone up recently, this. But it might cool off a bit. But because we're doing this on a year's basis, I think in a year's time.
Yeah, you're right. In a year's time, it's going to be up. Yeah.
I think this will be up significantly, because I think Spot is not on the radar of anybody who's not sort of into, detailed comic speculation. Whereas, you know, if you go to the average person on the street and say Spider-Man, 100% of them will know who Spider-Man is. If you go and say Spot, they won't know who on earth you're talking about. Whereas in a year's time, they probably will. So, you know, his recognition factor will go up significantly. And he's a great character because he can go in and out of dimensions. So with the multiverse thing, he's a sort of perfect
it's purely set up
villain.
for him. Yeah, really
so
good.
This is my spec. You can pick this up. You know, you can still pick this up for $30, $20 to $30 raw. I'm talking raw, mid to high grade. So this and the one after it actually is a bit cheaper, 99, which is a great cover, and it's got Spot on the cover, is a bit cheaper because it's not his first appearance, but it is his first cover appearance. So yeah, that's my third pick for today's show. First appearance of Spot in Spectacular Spider-Man 98. I think I bought this right at the start of this year, and I think I paid about five quid for it. So this was
I paid $5 for my copy.
Yeah.
So I got it even cheaper.
Yeah.
I bought it last year actually. So
okay. So yeah, that's my 3 picks done. And
so actually I agree with you. You pick up that and the issue after. Again, it's all about getting that cover appearance as well. I think that's really important. So yeah, definitely a great spec. I really like those quirky characters anyways. That's a really good one.
Yeah. So, and as I say, I think his brand, in marketing terms, his brand recognition is going to rise significantly over the next 12 months.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thanks, Alan. I think we've got a good 12 there, and in a year's time, we'll see how we did. Okay. Thanks very much.
Thanks again.
Bye.